welcome you to the September Community Gathering, which is the Sheriff's Candidate Conversation, and this is sponsored by Clifton Forge Main Street. There are 3 candidates on the stage this evening. These 3 candidates are running for the Alleghany County Sheriff. First, I'd like to introduce the non-incumbents, which are Brad Armitroff and Kyle Moore, and incumbent Kevin Hall. So those are the 3 that we'll be talking with this evening. First of all, some housekeeping. Everybody's got these in their pockets. I know you do. Please silence or turn them off. We don't want to hear any beeping and phones ringing and all. I really want to give us a chance to focus on what these guys are saying and talking about our community, okay? That's pretty much the main that y'all need to play. Is just okay. Gentlemen, the goal of our candidate conversation is to provide information about you and your thoughts so that Clifton Forge voters will be better informed when they go to the polls to vote. We have a selection of questions we will ask you. Most all of the questions will be directed to the 3 of you, but only one will be directed to the 2 non-incumbents. Questions that we have may include 2 or 3 points. Please make sure that you answer every point of the question. We will not have follow-up questions during the hour that you're here on stage. But when we're done with this part of this conversation, we will invite you all to go out and talk one-on-one with people in the audience here. There'll be about a 15-minute window afterwards that y'all can go and speak with them one-on-one. Let's see here. On stage, you will each have 2 minutes to respond to the question that you're directed, and we will enforce that time limit. My friend Mac over here is the timekeeper this evening. When you have 30 seconds left on your 2-minute window, he's going to hold that red card up, and then at the 30-second mark, we will cut you off. So if you can wrap it up during that 30 seconds so I don't have to interrupt you, that would be great. Okay. Now, audience, actually, I do have one more thing. I would ask for y'all to be respectful, listen carefully to what these gentlemen have to say, and if you could please refrain from excessive exuberance or for or against what these candidates are saying. Oh, busted. Who is it? Silence. Silence. Okay. And I ask you, the candidates, to focus on what you believe is best for our community. The purpose of this conversation is to present your own position. Okay. To begin with, we're going to step out of the 2-minute window for questions, and we're going to give each of you 3 minutes to just introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about you as individuals. And the question that we're going to start with, and we'll start with Brad, is why did you decide to run for Alleghany County Sheriff? And we'll go in order. You'll each have 3 minutes, and if you keep an eye on that 30-second mark will move right out. Brad, you want to start? There is a microphone right next to you, and I think you guys can, between the 3 of you, share the 2 microphones. And please use your mic. All right, Brad.
Hi, my name is Brad Armitroff. I'm glad to have the opportunity to come here and speak to you today. In regards to the question, when we're talking about why I am running for Alleghany County Sheriff, can everybody hear me?
No, you got to turn it on.
Test.
Yeah.
The reasonings behind why I want to run for Alleghany County Sheriff. First thing I want to say is I was born and raised here. A lot of people get the misconception that I came up here from Florida. I was actually born and raised here. One of the first schools that I attended was actually Boiling Springs. Then my parents moved to Falling Springs, where I attended Falling Springs, and then I believe I was 10 or 11 years old. My parents ended up moving to Florida, where I spent the majority of about 28 to 30 years, where I graduated University of South Florida, had many different careers, decided to move back home closer to family and friends, and took an interest in going into law enforcement, which is why I came up here and ended up working at Clifton Forge Police Department first and foremost. One of my first days on the street as a Clifton Forge police officer, I was actually on a call where an individual had nothing to do with the call, came out just to see what was going on, and I took the individual to the side and explained what was going on, being very cordial with her, being very transparent and open about everything that was going on. And it was a worrisome conversation because the first thing that she said to me was, "You're not from here, are you?" And when I inquired about why she would make a statement about thinking that I wasn't here, she goes, just the fact that how you're treating me with respect, you're carrying on a conversation, you care about what I think, you're okay with telling me about what's going on in this call, and I appreciate and I respect that. Funny enough, she actually said, we need you to run for sheriff. That was 2013. I have never been in a position where I ever wanted to run for office. 3 years later, I ended up working with the Sheriff's Department and being in the Sheriff's Department and seeing a lot of the problems and the issues that are actually in that department. It became very well known to me that, yes, we have severe problems. We have a lack of leadership. We have a blatant incompetency. And something needs to be done about it, because if something isn't done about it, it's going to go down the continuing path of getting worse. Thank you for giving me your time.
Yep.
Good evening. The reason I wanted to be sheriff was out in 2007. I started work with the Government Police Department in 1986 as a patrolman. And then in 1992, I went involved with the DARE program with the late J.B. Brooklyn, one of my mentors that I worked up through the department with as a good friend. And in 1996, I kind of fell in love with the job. But when I started at the police department, I never really thought I'd ever get involved in it. A couple guys recruited me, and I got involved in it. I like work, I like helping other people and helping the community. I've always been involved in the community. The Alleghany Highlands has been very good to me and my family. I grew up on Potts Creek at the Bowling Spring School. Grew up in a very poor environment, but all throughout school there's all kinds of people that helped me, and this is a very giving community. Throughout the years, I advanced through the department with the drug task force in 1996 to 98, and in 2000 I became a single father, and I got promoted in 98 to sergeant. Chief came to me and said, I need you to go back into the drug task force so you can take care of your family and raise a son and a daughter. In 2001, a position came open as a school resource officer at Coden High School. Actually the first school resource officer in this area. And I always loved kids, working with kids, coaching kids, which I continue to coach now. I've coaching since 2002, the time that I was a school resource officer. 2004, Kenny Lane retired. He was a detective sergeant in criminal investigations, moved into his spot. And in 2007, a lot of citizens and people got up and said, hey, we need you, we want you to run for sheriff. I ran for sheriff and was successful. I've had a lot of good people. Jack Thurston, J.B. Brooklyn, a lot of great mentors, taught me a lot of things about dealing with people, how to deal with people. And, Jack Thurston, he told me one time, if you surround yourself with good people, then you'll be successful. And I feel like that we surrounded ourselves at the sheriff's office with a lot of good people. There's been some hiccups along the way. There's people make mistakes. But, we've done a lot in this community. We have a school resource officer in every school now. I think 5 years ago, I worked with the Board of Supervisors, Mr. Nicely, is here present, Mr. Dodd, to achieve that. Now this year, we're working with Clifton Ford's chief and Governor Chief to obtain a regional ERT team, SWAT team. We received a grant for $250,000. I love this community. I'm from this community. I put everything I have into this, and I ask for your vote for the 7%.
Thank you. Kyle?
Okay. Unlike these two, I am not from Alleghany County, and I made some notes. I don't want to forget anything.
That microphone.
I'm sorry. I was holding
That's
it.
okay.
I'm not used to microphones, but so as I said, I don't want to forget anything. I've made notes, and I've been thinking about this, for a few days now. I've put things on paper, and I don't want to leave anything out. So I'm going to begin by telling you my name is Kyle Matthew Moore. I was born and raised in Dickinson County, Virginia. Probably not many people here know where that is. It's down in the coal fields. My father was a coal miner, over 30 years in the coal mine, and my mother was a homemaker. So, kind of like Kevin, we didn't have a whole lot. But I did learn about hard work, and I did learn about respect. Those were two things that I did learn a lot about. When I graduated from high school, I joined the military. I joined the U.S. Army as a military policeman in 1988. I spent 8 years active duty, served 8 years at different locations. Fort Jackson, South Carolina, and then I went to Germany, pulled a couple of years in Germany with my wife, went to Fort Devens, Massachusetts after that, and in my last 2 years, I was assigned to Arlington Cemetery, and I was a member of the 1st Military Police Platoon that was assigned to the Honor Guard at Arlington Cemetery. I was hired in 1996 by the Virginia State Police, and was assigned to Alleghany County. I wanted to go closer to home, but there was nothing available any further west. So I chose Alleghany County. I was lucky enough to have scored high enough in my class to be able to choose my location. And I was assigned here. And this was as close to home as I could get. It was beautiful. It reminded me a lot of back home, the mountains and the streams and the rivers and the lakes and the people. The people. I don't know if you've ever been back to where I'm from, but the people are very nice and they welcome you in. And it's a lot like the people here. The people of this community have been nothing but great to me and my family for the last 27 years. And I plan on making this place my home until I die. I have my wife here, Jackie, and I have 2 daughters who are here with me. I also have 2 son-in-laws, and I have 3 granddaughters. And I have a grandson on the way. So we're very excited about that. Now, getting to why I chose to run for sheriff. On the night of the last election, I had a couple of buddies, we were talking, and one of them made the comment, more than 24.
Sorry to interrupt you. You have just a couple seconds, so I'm going to stop you at that point, and we're moving to questions, all right?
All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, we're going to start the questions now. I will let you know who's going to go first as far as answering each question, and we'll run over clockwise from there. It's a 2-minute time frame on that, and again, the 30 seconds, the red thing will come up here. We're going to start with Kevin. You're going to start with this question. How does an Alleghany County Sheriff specifically serve the residents of Clifton Forge?
We serve them every day. Clifton Forge is part of Alleghany County, the town of Bird. I believe in 2000, Clifton Forge Sheriff's Office was disbanded. Some of those people came. A couple of the guys are sitting in this room, came to the Sheriff's Office during that time. We serve the papers here. We're not the primary law enforcement agency here, but we do assist the town police here on a daily basis. And there's sometimes they're very short-handed. And when Clifton went to the town, Alleghany County Sheriff's Office is funded by the State Compensation Board, and they're given one deputy for every 1,500. So I think the Sheriff's Office at that time got 4 new deputies for patrol. So that's what they consider to be able to help them cover, not being primary law enforcement, but being the secondary. But I know there's times now when Clifton Forge is short-handed, has one person that we're relied upon, and we serve all civil process, and then of course the jail that was shut down here, right here at the town hall, is now on Main Street in Covington.
Thank you. Kyle, how does an Alleghany County Sheriff specifically serve the residents of Clifton Forge?
Well, as Kevin said, I was here whenever the Clifton Forge Sheriff's Office was open as well, and they had many good officers. Worked with the Clifton Forge Police Department and Chief Barry Boswell. Since Barry retired, Chief Wickline has taken over, and he's done a very good job with the department. It's taken them in a very good direction. I believe that the Sheriff's Office does a phenomenal job working with the Clifton Forge officers. They're 100% supported by each other. The Clifton Forge officers will go out onto the interstate, they'll go out to Dabney, they'll go out to other locations, Cliftondale Park, and support the deputies. They get along very well. One thing that I would like to see is the Sheriff's Office have an assigned unit for certain times during their shift in Clifton Forge. And I'd like to see that in Iron Gate as well. There are tax dollars that are spent to fund the sheriff's office, and I believe that given today's law enforcement environment, we are very short. Every agency in the state of Virginia is short people, and we don't have enough police officers. So we have to help each other. The state police has to help the sheriff's office, has to help Clifton Forge. Clifton Forge has to help us. We have to help the park rangers. The park rangers have to help us. And anyone else in between. Game wardens. Game wardens do a good job at that also. But when it comes down to it, we have to take care of each other.
Thank you. Brad?
I actually agree with everything that Kyle just said, but I do find it kind of interesting that while I was in the sheriff's department as a deputy, there are specific supervisors that made comments about Clifton Forge as their own entity, pays their own police officers, and if they were short, we were actually directed to, hey, we got other things to do, you can't go in there and help. So I think that's very interesting. Kevin Hall would make that assumption about coming in there and helping. But I do wholeheartedly think about Alleghany County and the sheriff's department and the working with Clifton Forge Police Department. I believe it's more an extension of what's called community policing, because Alleghany County associating anything in Clifton Forge, things that happen in Clifton Forge end up in the county, things that happen in the county end up in Clifton Forge. So it's imperative that those two localities actually work together.
Thank you. Next question. Kyle, we're going to start with you on this one. What steps have you taken or will you take to ensure that use of force by law enforcement officers is minimal and proportionate? And how do you plan to hold officers accountable for any instances of misconduct or excessive use of force?
I'm glad you asked that question. Coming from the Virginia State Police and as a supervisor with the State Police for 14 years, I was involved in many investigations involving use of force. Our use of force policy was very detailed, and we required every incident. If an inmate said they were hurt, a sergeant was contacted and an investigation was conducted. That investigation consisted of pictures, interviews of the suspect, as well as the trooper, and as well as any other witnessing officers or witnesses that were present during the time. The use of force policy at the Sheriff's Office, recently I submitted a Freedom of Information Act request, and I did receive that. And the policy states that all use of force incidents will be investigated. I contacted a former member of the department and asked who was the supervisor that signed off on this use of force investigation that we're all aware of that is going on at this time, the situation with the lawsuit. I was told that there was no complaint made and that no investigation occurred. How do you not investigate a situation when a subject shows up at the jail with blood all over them, a broken jaw, and 2 burn wounds? I will investigate all use of forces. I say my department will investigate all use of force incidents.
Brad, would you like me to repeat the question? Or? You?
Repeat the question.
Okay. The question was, what steps have you taken or will you take to ensure that the use of force by law enforcement officers is minimal and proportionate? And how do you plan to hold officers accountable for any instances of misconduct or excessive use of force?
So to answer that question, we actually get into the lack of accountability that's prevalent in the sheriff's department. But it's not just the use of force, it's actually a multifaceted issue that we're looking at. To specifically answer your question, which I'm probably going to bring up again, has to do with the use of creating a board review. That I do believe that any and every issue or complaint in regards to whether it's use of force or other should be reviewed by a board. That board consisting of members of law enforcement, the board consisting of members of the community, business owners, representative of government, to actually look at that, read it, and issue a recommendation on what should be done or if it should go forward. Because even if it's a small little frivolous type thing, it is such an easy thing to get a group of members of our community to come in and sit down to review, to read, and give a recommendation to that. That recommendation is a type of accountability that will hold the sheriff to, well, this is what we see, this is what we're saying. Either you do or do not do something. And if you don't, then questions are going to be asked.
Thank you. Kevin? Would you like me to repeat it? Are you good?
Yeah, go ahead and repeat it.
Okay, the question was, what steps have you taken or will you take to ensure that the use of force by law enforcement officers is minimal and proportionate? And how do you plan to hold officers accountable for any instances of misconduct or excessive use of force?
But the way you make sure that use of force is minimal is by training. You know, our officers are trained and given other weapons other than something for use of force, like deadly force with your gun there. You know, we have taser, hands-on. There's a continuing force that you meet force with whatever force is necessary to make your arrest. So you can't just, you know, the guy immediately comes at you with, you know, say an axe handle. You're not gonna, you know, your force is going to be greater. So we do have a policy. The policy is, you know, for DCJS, it's policy is right. All of our forces are investigated. I don't know who told Mr. Moore this, but I do know this. I do know that officer was sued. This agency has not been sued. That officer is sued, but that officer is a member of Virginia State Police currently. He left our agency. That body cam footage of that incident was reviewed by Mr. Paul Delaney, who's internal affairs with the state police, and he said the officer did nothing wrong. So the guy is serving, I think, a 5-year sentence on about 7 or 8 felonies, and I'm telling you, it's a frivolous lawsuit, but an officer out here trying to fight for his life when a person doesn't want to comply with the orders of the lawful orders of the police officer. Now, people can take some of these videos and they can slow them down and show a picture of what they want, but it's been investigated. It's a frivolous lawsuit, and we investigate every use of force the officers have to fill it out. Goes through our investigators and do the internal affairs investigations.
Thank you.